Hi, everybody. This is Carrie Hunt. Today, I am just going to talk about a few of the things that stood out to me in the readings we've done thus far in the class. To start, I would like to talk about the principle that we learned about family life education being preventative rather than therapeutic. This really interests me about family life education because I guess I feel like, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And that I guess I believe in the power of the human spirit to change their course if they have the right tools and knowledge. And I think that oftentimes what holds people back is just not knowing that there's a better way, not knowing the tools and tricks to do that. And that goes for people who are at risk, but also people who may not be at risk, may come from a really ideal situation. So I love the idea of there being different laws in place, like getting a free marriage license if you take a marriage preparation course, or clergy requiring marriage preparation in order to be married in their church or their synagogue. I think some of these things are really positive because it gets people started on the right track. In my own life, I remember taking, just even when I had my first child, just taking a childbirth class. But with the childbirth class, there was also how to care for your baby, how to deal with the stresses of having a new child and bringing that into your home and your marriage. And it was very, very helpful. And that was just one example. Another example of something that family life education that I did is a hospital also, when we were having our fifth child, they offered a class that you could bring siblings, and the siblings could learn about welcoming a new sibling, and they got to practice changing, diapers on a doll, and they got to learn about things like that and got them involved. So I really believe that family life education can be extremely powerful. Those are just two really small examples in my life. Next, I really like the point that was made that people need to understand the risk of not doing anything, and then I guess the benefits of the protective factor that receiving the education and enacting or adopting those behaviors in their own life will bring. So if they don't see that there's a risk or there's a problem with just going about things their regular way, they won't be very motivated to change or to try out the new behaviors. With that being said, I really liked what it talked about is some of the things that motivate people are having those peer examples, maybe showing what it looks like to use those behaviors, the positive outcomes. So yes, seeing the negative outcomes of not doing it, but also making sure that modeling or examples or videos or different case studies are shown that show what happens, what it looks like to adopt those types of behaviors. Okay, as far as marketing goes, I have had the opportunity to market just one personal business. I had a home preschool for several years, and I marketed that obviously myself. And I found that, consistent with what the text is saying, for sure, word of mouth was the most powerful thing. But second to that, social media and emailing, personal emailing, was very helpful. I would also offer any of my current student families, if they brought a friend, and that friend signed up with me to join the preschool, then I would give them a $50 referral fee. So that was something that was a little bit more maybe motivating for people to spread the word or try to get their friends and neighbors to come and join my preschool. Next, the flyer that I would make, or the informational sheet that I would make, always included a little bit about myself, the philosophy of the preschool, of course, the pertinent information about the times that we would have the preschool, what the parents could expect their child to gain or learn by the end of the school year, and as well as my contact information. And whenever somebody called me to inquire about the preschool, I tried to get them to come and meet me in person as soon as possible and to see the preschool, because I found that with that type of service, taking care of their child, providing them a preschool, the most important thing was them to have confidence in who they were leaving their child with, and to see me, to see my personality, to see my interaction with their child. And so as soon as I could get them to meet me one-on-one, I would try to do that. And so that was the way that I marketed the preschool. And it did continue to grow. The word of mouth was very helpful to continue to grow over the years that I had it. So applying that to family life education, I think that creating that need, I think one thing that I didn't do, that having read the information in this class, in the text these last couple weeks, was maybe providing some statistic or some information on the flyer that shows the benefits. Research shows that preschoolers who, et cetera, and then showing that the program that I have would fulfill that need. So something backing it up with just a little bit more of that would be, helpful. Or maybe having another parent write a little, a little reference note that I could include on that. So those are two ideas that I didn't do that I think would be helpful with family life education. So having the credibility in the marketing, and also using somebody that is well known. So one of my students' parents was very well known in the community, and it seemed like whenever someone new came to town or moved into town, they would always talk to this person. She was a Relief Society president, but she also has a big business owner in the area. And they would always talk to this person. And so that word of mouth, that sort of figure person really helped my business, actually. So she brought me a lot of people, I got a lot of phone calls as a result. So using a person in the community, a trusted person in the community, to promote the product. For our marketing that we're starting with my partner, we're going to go through our homeowners association, which is I live in a master plan community, and the homeowners association oftentimes offers or allows groups to do classes or workshops or clubs in the clubhouse. And so using the resource that they send out their email to, the thousands of residents who live in this area already, and to have it on their newsletter, the event that we're going to be having on their newsletter, I think will give credibility, as well as it's definitely going to get the publicity that we need to have people sign up. Next, I was really interested in all the principles in the Appendix A that we read. And I felt like those principles were really, really interesting. The principles that I really liked was the principle of momentum and the principle of discovery. I think that none of us are so old that we're not fascinated by learning something new, learning something that maybe is intuitive to us, that when we hear it, we say, yes, yes. I think that's really true with family life education. When we go and we sit around and we talk to other moms, or parents talk to each other, we're always wanting to know, what do you do about this? Or what do you do in this situation? There's that sense of discovery, wanting to know what works, and a desire to kind of learn more. So making family life education something that really uses that sense of discovery that we have naturally within us to discover more and to learn Hello, everybody. This is Carrie Hunt. Nice to be with you all today. I'm going to begin my outline and summary of these first couple of weeks by talking about something just in general about family life education. And that is the principle that we learned that family life education is preventative rather than therapeutic. And this is the number one main benefit of family life education is that, or sort of the old, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I really am fascinated by this aspect of family life education, that if it can reach its potential, if it can reach the people who need it the most, knowledge, learning, education is a catalyst for change and changing behaviors, giving people the tools in their hands that they need in order to make those changes is very powerful. And that may be people like the text mentioned who are at risk, but not really showing a lot of at risk. Showing a lot of problems as of yet, maybe just a few, and to be able to alleviate that just through the power of their own mind and their own ability to learn and to change. In addition, as probably every one of you can attest, regardless of the family situation that we grew up in, even if it was the most ideal situation with loving families and good authoritative parenting, regardless of any of that, do we not all benefit from family life education? I've learned so much throughout my marriage about relationships, about raising children, managing money, all the different things that we need to learn. And so much of that has come through not just trial and error, not just, letting life happen, but, actively reading books, taking classes, and of course now in my major, doing that. And so it doesn't matter if you're at risk or not. I think that just as important as helping those that are at risk is helping those that appear to have everything going for them. And this is especially true in the LDS community. I guess I feel like our LDS families need strengthening. We believe in the family so strongly, yet so many of our families are struggling and marriages aren't always going well. And we have just as much, pressure and struggle as everybody else, but yet we have such a knowledge of how it should be that I think we need more tools and more help. So I appreciate the idea of family life education being preventative rather than therapeutic, and the power that's in each individual to learn and to grow and to make changes based on receiving tools and knowledge that is solid, based on solid principles, whether that's spiritual principles or whether that's scientific principles through research and empirical study. So that is really motivating to me. Okay, second thing I'd like to talk about today is the idea of the principle that was talked about in Appendix A about motivation. So the principle of motivation, I liked how it said, or I guess not motivation, the principle of momentum. So how an accumulation of choices over time can build and kind of create a snowball effect. And of course, I think most of us see this principle as true. Something, in the negative, for sure, as you start to make different choices, things just kind of snowball, but also for the positive. So if somebody, at a really young age receives some education about child development, young in their marriage or their adult life, some education about child development. And as a result of that, they begin to see that that their efforts to teach and discipline in a certain way actually work, and that they aren't as frustrated or exhausted or constantly annoyed with their children. And then that momentum builds and they gain more knowledge. And as a result, I think the snowball effect on the positive side continues, and then they are able to be more and more capable and more skilled in their parenting. That's just one example. I have two kind of examples about family life education in my own personal life that are reminded. The only time I think I've really gone to something outside of like a college. The first was when I was having my first child, and I went to the childbirth education class that the hospital gave. But not only did it educate about how to have, childbirth and natural childbirth or whatever, the course also talked about caring for a child, a new baby, bringing a new baby home, dealing with your spouse, and how to work together on this. And that was very beneficial. I think that was probably the most helpful thing my husband and I could have done when we were expecting our first child, was to take that class together. And I really think that it helped us kind of start our life together as parents on a really unified front. And it wasn't just like me and maybe like a mom or a sister there, welcoming this baby, but it was my husband and I side by side, learning the information, getting ready to welcome this child, and really feeling like we were a partnership and we were doing this together. It was very powerful. It was just a simple course I took through the hospital. And then I think because that was such a positive experience for me, when we were having, I think it was our fourth or maybe our fifth child, we signed up the younger children in a sibling class, sort of like a class for the siblings to get ready to welcome a new baby into their house. And they got to, put a diaper on, teddy bears and baby dolls, and learn about, do different activities, and learn about what it was going to be like to have the baby come home and to welcome the baby. And I thought it was a really special way to make the children feel very involved in the process, and to really actually give them some education about what it's like and how to help, and maybe what the baby might do. And I think it was a really positive experience. So those are just two examples of preventative family life education that I really felt like were very positive and a really good impact in our life. Okay, the other principle that I really liked was the principle of order, stating that behavior has predictable consequences. There's laws in relationships, and if you work with those laws, you can get outcomes. This is something that I feel like a lot of people maybe don't understand this principle anymore. Let me give you an example of why I feel that. Maybe most people do. Maybe this is just my interpretation. But when I talk to friends, inevitably the conversation will go to, my child I'm struggling with this child, and this one, and there may be a piece of advice given or something from somebody, or their experience, and inevitably somebody will say something like, yeah, but every kid is just different. Every family is just different. And so every situation is different, which I get it. And I know that that's true, that everybody is an individual and everybody is different. But if we did not have some sort of order, if there wasn't some predictable way of acting in this world, where if you do certain things, typically certain things follow, I think it would be extremely overwhelming if you had to look at every single child and every single person and every relationship as completely unique in principle of how to help their behavior or how to help their relationship. I think it would be extremely overwhelming. And so I think that sometimes it's kind of an excuse to when things aren't really going very well. Well, every kid is different. And yes, they are. But at the same time, there are principles that we can learn, that yes, you have to adapt for different situations, but those principles have predictable outcomes. So I really like the principle of order. Lastly, I just wanted to talk about marketing. My personal experience with marketing has been just my own preschool that I've had, a home preschool. I had a preschool for several years, and I also did some in-home childcare. So my preschool, when I marketed it, I would always, I would make a flyer, and I would introduce myself. I would talk about the program, the benefits of my program. I would put the pertinent information, obviously, the days that we met, the cost. And I also would always put what they could expect the child to learn by the end of the year, and types of activities, and the benefits of it, and my general philosophy about preschool. So I would give that usually through social media, personal emails, and then to friends, and then through word of mouth. Any existing customers that I had, preschool families that I had, if they referred a friend and that friend signed up, I would give them a $50 referral fee too. So that was a way that I marketed it. And I also found that I had a friend who was pretty well known in the community, and her child had been in my preschool, and I had watched her child for years. And she also, it just seemed like when new people would move in, somehow she would always talk to them. And if they needed a preschool, she was the one that always would, pass on my name and number. And so kind of having that influential person was really helpful too, to help market my business. And several other influential people in the area, in the ward, and the community would always kind of put my name out there. And that was really helpful to me. I think I got quite a lot of business just from those people, their word of mouth. And as well as I just tried to do a really good job. I tried to make it so that the product was really good. The children felt loved, the parents felt communicated with. The activities and service that I provided was I tried to make it really high quality. And the children loved me and loved coming, to my home, and they felt, welcome there. And as a result, it was not really that hard to market the product because it was a solid product. The other thing that maybe I would have changed since I've been reading these chapters is maybe putting in the flyer either some principle of child development, maybe, or some statistics saying something like preschool benefits children such and such way, and then show how my service was going to, provide, kind of meet up with those standards. But as far as marketing family life education, I think those same principles apply. Making sure you have a good product, that it's what people need, it's what will benefit the people, and they can see a difference. They can see a difference by the service you provide. And then of course, having, flyers or posters or social media posts that give all the relevant information and kind of show the benefits of going with you versus going with somebody else, or the benefits of not doing anything at all versus coming and using your family life education. And then the last thing I just wanted to touch on was when I'm going to be marketing the item the workshop that I'm going to be doing in my area. I'm going to be using the homeowners association. I live in a master plan community, and the homeowners association often sends out a regular newsletter email, and it shows all the different offerings. That there might be a workshop about financial planning, or they might be, a Boy Scout troop that's starting up, or whatever, a Cub Scout group. But so people are used to seeing those types of invitations in these newsletters. So using that resource where they send it out to thousands of residents here in the area, I think is really going to give a lot of visibility and credibility. It's we're going to hold our event in the community center here that's comfortable and close for people. And we're going to market it in a way that is really targeted to this area, this middle class area that's very family focused. So marketing as something, building on strengths that they might have, and how to further build on strengths. So that is kind of the way that we're going to be marketing the product or the workshop in our area. In closing, I wanted to talk just about one more principle that I liked from that appendix, and that is the principle of discovery. I think that that principle really rang true with me. I get excited about learning new things, especially things that are sort of like intuitive, like the things that we learn in this class, that when you read them, you say, yes, it just really rings true. And I think that's that's what people need. They need things that they don't seem so crazy and so difficult to grasp, but they're about everyday life, but they really are practical. It's something that they can go home today, and just start working on something very simple that actually can make a huge difference and really shift the whole momentum of their family. And I've seen this in my own life. There's been times when my husband and I have received inspiration for doing some small tweak in the way that we manage our home. And then as a result of that small tweak, as President Gordon B. Hinckley would say, the way that a gate swings, just the smallest little bit, maybe it's tiny here, but on the outside of the gate, it moves it in a huge way, or the switch, right, with the train. if you just one small switch in one small location can alter the entire course of where that train goes. And I find that that's very true. So that discovery, that excitement about implementing something new and simple into your family that can make a huge difference. And that's what I hope to be able to portray to in the family life workshop that my partner and I do is that discovery, the discovery that relationships can be good and that we can change. So thank you for listening to my outline, and have a wonderful day.